Hey there! So I have sort of like a favorites foundation video for you guys today. So I sort of gathered up all of my favorite foundations that I've tried in the entire time that I've been trying out foundations. And so I picked my top 7. Originally I was going to narrow it down to 5, but I couldn't decide, so I made it a top 7 foundations, and they're sort of like a mix of drugstore and higher end foundations. And so I just wanted to kind of share them with you guys, sort of like in the order from like my not as favorite to my absolute favorite. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first one is the Maybelline Dream Matte Mousse. And I purchased this foundation a couple of times, but it took me a couple of times to find my right shade. And this is like the perfect match for my skin tone. It is in the shade Dark Zero, but I've discovered that the shade has been discontinued, so I have to kind of find a different match for me. But what I like about this foundation is that it is sort of like a mousse. I don't know if you guys can see. I've got pretty deep into the bottom of the container, but it's like a glass jar and it twists off like this. And what I use is a stippling brush. I use the Sigma F80, and I stipple it in there, and then I stipple it all over my face, and then I buff it in. And what I like about this foundation is it's really smooth, and it blends really nicely, and it looks really clean. However, you have to kind of build it up little by little, otherwise it will look like major cakey. So that's my major concern with this foundation. Otherwise, I really like this as a good sort of like cream mousse foundation product. And then my second favorite foundation is also by Maybelline, and is the Dream Liquid Mousse. And it looks like this. I'm in the shade Honey Beige, which is medium 4. And what I like about this foundation is that, first of all, in terms of packaging, it has a pump. And I find it really rare for drugstore foundations to have a pump on them, just because a lot of them don't. And they just have the twist-off cap, so you have to like pour some on your hand and stipple it that way. So I really love the fact that this has a pump on it. And then the other thing I really like about this foundation is that, like it says on top of the bottle, it says airbrush finish. So you really can achieve the airbrush finish look by using this foundation. I also use the Sigma F80 flat top Kabuki by Sigma. It's like the flat top synthetic brush. I use that to stipple it all over my face and buff it in as well. So I really love this foundation. The only sort of like downside that I have to it is that sometimes it feels a little like silicone-y. And I think it's water-based, but it feels like a little silicone-y on your face. So if you don't really like that, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that foundation. But I have absolutely loved that for the longest time. And then the next foundation, as one of my favorites, has been the Revlon PhotoReady foundation. And I'm in the shade number 10 Caramel. And actually, this one is a little bit dark for me, so I use this when I tend to get a little bit darker. But I was totally sold on the packaging because, as I've mentioned earlier, that drugstore foundations really don't tend to have a pump. And this one has a really nice cover on it as well, but this one also has a pump, which makes it really easy to distribute and make sure you have control over how much product you're putting on your face. So I really like the fact that this packaging has a pump on it. This foundation does blend really nicely. It does sort of have like it's kind of liquidy, like it's more liquidy than creamy as other liquid foundations tend to be. But what I like about this foundation is that, I don't know, like it just feels nice on my face, and it covers really well. Like it's definitely medium to full coverage, but you can definitely get like really full coverage with this foundation. And then the downside to this foundation is that, you know, if you look really closely, you can see that it has really fine, like reflective particles in it. It's not necessarily glitter, but it can tend to look like sparkly. So if you hit the light in a certain angle, it'll reflect sort of like a little glittery looking. But I haven't really had a major problem with that as long as I set it with a translucent powder or sort of just a nice like matte pressed powder. So I like this foundation. I definitely recommend it as one of my more favorite drugstore foundations. And then the next one of my favorite foundations is also by Revlon, and it is the Revlon ColorStay foundation, and I'm in the shade 380 Rich Ginger. And I've mentioned this recently in my June favorites. Well, actually that wasn't that recent, but in my June favorites I mentioned this because I haven't tried this up until like the past few months, which is crazy because this product has been out for a really long time. But I absolutely loved it. I definitely believe it is worth like all of the hype. It definitely gives you absolute like full coverage if you want full coverage, or you can just have sort of like a medium to full coverage with this foundation. It blends really nicely. It does tend to dry quickly, so you do have to apply it in sections on your face, but that doesn't seem to be a major problem for me. The issue that I have with this foundation, though, is that it doesn't have a pump. And that's like my major concern when it comes to foundation, because I'm like really like, I like to have control over how much foundation I apply. And if you kind of pour it onto your hand or you pour it onto like a flat surface, you really don't have control unless you're really good at like making sure the right amount comes out. So that is my major concern. I have asked around for people who may know if they have a pump that could attach to this. A lot of people recommended the MAC Studio Fix Fluid pump, and I've tried that and it doesn't really fit. So I need to find another alternative to that. I know I've also seen other videos where people like completely pour it out into a bottle with a pump, but I don't know if I'm all that interested in doing that. But anyways, I really do love this foundation, and it's definitely worth purchasing if you are looking for a good affordable foundation. And then the next one of my favorite foundations I actually got pretty recently, but it has already been like my absolute like favorite drugstore foundation, and it is the Revlon ColorStay Whipped Cream Foundation, and I'm in the shade 160 Rich Ginger, and I actually really had to hunt for this like foundation because I went to maybe 4 or 5 different stores looking for this, and they didn't have my shade. Like, they only went up to like the shade that's 3 shades lighter than my skin tone. And so I had to really hunt for this, and I didn't find it in any store, so I just like went online and ordered it from CVS.com. And so this foundation looks like it opens up, it's like a jar, like a glass jar, and then it twists off, and then it looks like that. I don't know, it's kind of like, it's like a mix between like a cream and a liquid. I don't know, it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It looks like melted ice cream or something. But what I like about this foundation is that it really, like, it blends like butter on your face. Like, it's just amazing. Like, it just melts right in. It's so smooth. It's so creamy. It blends like amazing. This is actually what I'm wearing on my face today as my foundation, but it's fantastic. I would highly recommend this as a really good foundation. Just as long as you find your right shade, you should be good to go. And I also, what I use to apply this, I use the Sigma F80 stippling brush for this as well. So I just kind of dip it in, and then I stipple it on and buff it in. But it feels amazing. It doesn't feel heavy on your face. It feels pretty light, and it feels like, I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like you're not wearing any makeup, but it's not super heavy like some of the other liquid foundations that I've mentioned. So I really like this. This has become my absolute favorite drugstore foundation. So if you're looking for a more affordable drugstore foundation, I would recommend this or the original Revlon ColorStay, because they're both really fantastic. And then my next two favorites, I kind of was hoping that my absolute favorite foundations would not be high-end, but they ended up being after I've gone through my entire collection. So the next one in my favorites is the Makeup Forever Matte Velvet Plus Foundation, and I'm in the shade, I think it's 165, or I don't even remember, it rubbed off. I'll put it in the video description, but this is one of my absolute favorite foundations. I've repurchased it twice already, and as you guys may know, I have pretty oily skin. So like, combination to oily, but I can get pretty oily. So I absolutely love this foundation because it keeps my skin matte, although it doesn't feel like super drying, because I have tried mattifying foundations before that have felt like it is drying and sucking the life out of my face. So I love this foundation because it's mattifying, but it blends nicely and it doesn't dry like your face. So I know it's a bit expensive. This is $32, I believe. I don't know if the price went up, but it's $32, around that price range. And I think the only place you can get it is at Sephora or like online where people sell Makeup Forever. But I highly recommend this if you have pretty oily skin and you want to kind of control that with a mattifying foundation, because I have not tried a mattifying foundation that has worked as well as this one. But also, okay, I need to talk about the downside to this, because when I got this the first time, the first bottle of this that I picked up, I know a lot of other people had this problem, is when you open it up, it just starts spouting out, like it just starts like shooting out like a geyser, and it just keeps pouring and pouring and pouring out, and then ultimately it gets all stuck in the cap, which I don't know if you guys can see, but it's probably all stuck in there still. But I've heard a lot of people who had the same issue with this foundation, and if you think about it, it ends up wasting quite a bit of foundation. So that is my major concern with it, although I really do like it because of the packaging. It's really easy to travel with. It's pretty compact and it slides in your makeup bag pretty easily, and it doesn't have a pump. It's sort of like a squeeze, although it has a nozzle, so it does give you control over how much foundation you apply. But yeah, it does have that issue where it does just kind of shoot out. But other than that, I absolutely love this foundation. And then my absolute favorite foundation for maybe the past 3 years is continued to be the same foundation, and it is the Makeup Forever HD High Definition Foundation. I'm in the shade 170, and I don't even know what to say. Like, this has been the absolute best foundation that I've ever tried in my life. The packaging is fantastic. It has a really good pump on it. It's really clean. It's not glass, it's like hard plastic, which is also good because it's not as heavy. But I would repurchase this over and over and over and over again. If this is the only foundation I would ever use, this is definitely the first one I would pick. Just because, I don't know, it just looks amazing on your face. Like, I know some people don't really like this foundation, but I think it depends on the brush that you use and the amount that you use. Some people just try to like cake this thing on and it just looks like crazy. But if you put the right amount of foundation, like maybe 1.5 to 2 pumps would give you full coverage, but maybe sometimes just 1 pump is enough. And then I put it on my Sigma F80 brush, and then I stipple it on and buff it in, and it looks like completely like airbrush, like perfect. And I don't even know, like it just gives you that amazing coverage, and it looks really nice on your face. It does sort of have like a dewy finish to it, which I don't have a complete like issue with. That's probably my biggest issue with this foundation, is that it has a dewy finish because I have oily skin. But other than that, it's pretty fantastic. And I would highly recommend this. If you haven't tried it already, you can go down to Sephora and you'll be able to test it out over there. But I definitely recommend that as my absolute favorite foundation. But that's pretty much it for my foundation favorites. Definitely let me know if you guys have any questions about any of the products I mentioned in this video. I know maybe you guys are not fond of some of the foundations that I mentioned, but they have worked really well for me over the past few years. And if you guys have any recommendations for really great foundations, definitely let me know down in the comments. And I will have a list of all of these products and the shades down in the video description, just in case I forgot to mention them, or if you guys are interested in figuring out which shade would best suit you. But anyways, I don't have anything on my nails this week. Yeah, I haven't had much time to do my nails. Been pretty busy with everything in life, but I'm really hoping to make more videos for you guys. I've really missed making videos, so I hope you guys haven't forgotten about me, but I will be back hopefully soon to make more videos for you guys. Anyways, trying to make this video not as long as my usual videos, but thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!